The Roman Empire, the Ming Dynasty, the 1920s Yankees. All good things must come to an end, and such was Kenner's Star Wars line of action figures. But after selling 300 million figures, they weren't going down without a fight.
A lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
Welcome to the final installment of our look at the original Kenner Star Wars line. We're going to delve into the final 15 figures released in 1985. Previously, we've seen how bold moves by George Lucas set up financial independence at the cost of becoming beholden to merchandise produced by the films. We explored the brilliant sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, and how a tragedy involving Battlestar Galactica toys robbed us of potentially the greatest figure of the 1980s. And finally, we saw how commercial decisions impacted the creative process in the making of Return of the Jedi. By 1985, Jedi had been out of theaters for 2 years. That's a long time for kids. New challengers for dominance in the toy aisles, like Transformers and G.I. Joe, a real American hero, had captured the imagination of scores of children. With no new Star Wars movie on the horizon, Kenner was in a bind. In an attempt to revitalize the line, 15 new figures were released under the Power of the Force banner. These new creations, along with numerous previously released figures, came packed with a collector coin, a very cool but ultimately unsuccessful attempt to draw in new collectors. But that wasn't all. Kenner realized they still held the rights to the most successful toy line of all time, and they weren't going down without a fight. Kenner wanted to extend the line with original creations, a first pass at the expanded universe, so to speak. And thanks to collectors Lisa Stevens and Vic Wertz, we have an actual copy of the presentation Kenner made to Lucasfilm. The concept revolved around a new villain, Atha Prime, who had harnessed the power of cloning technology and built an army of evil clone warriors. He was described as a genetics master, ruler of the Dark Worlds, and the architect of the Clone Wars. But Kenner understood that original creations alone wouldn't carry the line. They presented concept drawings for Luke Skywalker, wearing Jedi training armor and his covered cybernetic hand, as well as Han Solo, dressed as a heroic leader of the Republic, but still retaining his cowboy vibe. While the figures look cool, several amazing vehicles were to be included as well. This Millennium Falcon cargo handler would have been a sweet addition to the existing vehicle. It's similar to what ended up being the Millennium Falcon in the Solo film. This AT-IC, or all-terrain ion cannon, would have laid waste to scores of rebel troops. And there were concept drawings for new creations called the Annihilator, as well as one known as the Apex Invader. The cherry on top was the Imperial Outpost playset. This would have been Kenner's response to the mammoth USS Flag from Hasbro's G.I. Joe line. A toy this massive could only have been produced in the mid-1980s, the glory days of playsets that have sadly passed us by. And much like the existing Power of the Force line, they plan to include figures from the movie trilogy as well. There he is, listed right in the middle of the page. They were finally planning to make a figure of Grand Moff Tarkin. Lucasfilm liked what they heard, but ultimately said no. The 15 figures from Power of the Force would be the final Star Wars figures of the original line. Tradition matters, so like the previous lines based off the films, Power of the Force had to have a mail-away figure. So in the grand tradition of Boba Fett and Admiral Akbar, they chose the ghost of Anakin Skywalker? So it's not enough that they produce another old white guy that isn't Grand Moff Tarkin. They choose someone with 5 seconds of screen time. But the ultimate indignity is that stupid grin. Come on, man. Things got better quickly with the Amanaman figure. This bounty hunter was hanging out in Jabba's palace during the rescue of Han Solo. He is also a headhunter as you can see by his staff. Man, I gotta get one of those. Next up comes Barada, the final of 3 figures whose name came from the 1951 sci-fi classic The Day the Earth Stood Still, along with Cletu and Nikto. EV-99 is the only feminine droid made by Kenner. She worked as a supervisor in Jabba's palace, dismembering and tormenting other droids. Following Jabba's demise, however, she was deactivated, and later went into service as a bartender in Mos Eisley, where she made a cameo appearance in the Mandalorian series. I've given Kenner a ton of credit for never phoning in a sculpt, never taking the easy way out to mass-produce numerous figures using the same parts. Until now. This A-Wing pilot is just a cheaply repainted B-Wing pilot figure, earmuffs included. Here is one we really needed, Han Solo in Carbonite. There was a Carbonite shell that was included with Boba Fett's Slave 1, but with this one, you can actually place the Han figure securely into the Carbonite block. Had the line continued, I would have loved to see more additions like this one. I can only imagine that this was the conversation in the Kenner design room back in 1985. You know what kids are really digging these days? No, man, what's that? Old white guys. Yeah, dude, old white guys make rad toys. Let's make an old white guy figure. Tubular, what about Tarkin, yo? No, too easy. We need to gleam the cube on this one. How about the Imperial Dignitary? He was in the film for about 3 seconds. Whoa, where's the beef? That dude is gnarly bodacious. I'm pretty sure it went exactly like that. Now this is a good toy. The Imperial Gunner. That red visor against the black outfit is the personification of bad guy. Luke shows up twice in the final 15 figures. First, in his indoor battle poncho. It's a well done figure, but it could have gone to the next level had it included a removable helmet like Leia's version had. This figure may be the best executed of the final 15, General Lando Calrissian. The head sculpt is an uncanny likeness for the time, and his cape is designed to fall at an angle in front of his left shoulder. Truly 4 inches of plastic goodness. Luke's back, this time in his stormtrooper disguise from the original Star Wars film. We would have to wait a decade to get a stormtrooper Han to go with him, and that came as a mail away for 2 proofs of purchase from Kellogg's cereal. The 90s were weird too. You didn't think George Lucas was going to let us get through this without an Ewok, did you? Well, we got 2. Warrock and Roomba. No, not the automated vacuum cleaner, but you bet your ass if Lucas thought he could merchandise that, he would. But one lovable character did get a well-deserved 3rd version. This R2-D2 came with a spring-loaded lightsaber that launched out of his head, just like when he sent it to Master Luke as they battled Jabba's minions over the Sarlacc pit. And for the first time, Luke gets a screen-accurate lightsaber with this green version. You know, R2's a pretty big smartass. Go back and listen to the translations of the beeps and boops that C-3PO provides, and you realize R2's got a mouth on him. Power of the Force didn't sell as well as Kenner had hoped. The kids had moved on. The difficult decision was made to discontinue the line. But they had just begun production on what would be the last of the original figures, Yak Face. Rumor had it that they destroyed their overstock of figures, while others maintained that the leftovers were shipped off to Europe and Canada. In any case, this Yak Face figure was never released in the US, making it one of the rarest and most sought-after figures produced. Well-preserved examples can easily go for thousands on eBay. With that, the original Kenner Star Wars line was complete. All told, it spawned over 100 unique figures over 7 years and defined the childhoods of a generation. Let us know in the comments if you liked the video, and hit subscribe so you can stay up to date for more goodness coming from Carbon Scoring.